Edward, you've been badly wounded by your brother's clawful attack. Oscar N. Ratip's round form filled the hatchway, blocking the sunlight like an eclipse. Mr. Ratip, what's wrong? Where did everybody go? Why do I smell smoke? Janner took a step forward and winced as another pang shot up his leg. Oscar jiggled down the stairs to Janner's side. Easy then, that's it, lad. He took Janner by the arm and helped him forward. Janner asked again, what's happening? Oscar pushed up his spectacles and wiped his sweaty pate. Everything's all right, lad, everything's all right. Oscar, who used to spend all his time puffing on a pipe at his desk in the rear office of Books and Crannies, who had only ever read about real adventures and who had never been on a ship before, was as close to being a sailor as he would ever be. He was barefoot, his breeches were cut off at the shin, and he wore a sleeveless shirt, which allowed him to proudly display his new tattoo. And though he was no smaller and no less squishy, he seemed healthier. If everything's all right, why do I smell smoke? Are the Fangs back? The 7 Fangs they'd subdued on the ship when they escaped Chimera had gotten rowdier by the day. They had howled and scratched at the stowage walls until it became clear that they wouldn't stop until they scraped their way out. The Chimerans wanted to execute them, but Nia wouldn't allow it. 2 weeks into the voyage, Poto decided to set them adrift on a little skiff with a jug of water, assuring everyone that it was as good as an execution, and that if the Maker wanted them to survive, it was up to him to arrange it. Janner had lain awake many nights imagining they'd somehow catch up to them, slip aboard, and kill the crew in their sleep. Oscar waved his hand as they mounted the first step. No, those wolves are gone. Your mother sent me to bring you topside. Oscar's face turned grave. There's something you need to see. Janner had always been impatient when it came to getting answers. With his legs hurt, the 8 steps to the deck were likely to be an arduous journey, and he didn't want to wait that long. What is it? Please, Mr. Ratip. No, lad. This is a thing to see, not to hear about. Now bear up and come on. Janner took his old friend's arm and eased his way up the steps into the sunlight. When his eyes had adjusted, he saw the open sea for the first time since they'd set sail. He had seen the ocean from the cliffs back home, stretching out forever east, and he had seen it when they escaped the ice prairies, with the frozen crags at his back. But now it surrounded him. The effect was dizzying. The dark sea of darkness was vast and terrible to behold. It quickened his pulse and took his breath, and he knew in an instant that he loved it. He thought of the little sketch of his father sailing alone on his 12th birthday, and how he had gazed at the picture for hours and longed to do the same. The smell of the sea, the sun on the water, and the knowledge of his father's love for sailing rushed at Janner like a rogue wave and sent his heart spinning. The exhilaration faded when the breeze shifted and the sharp smell of smoke invaded his thoughts again. He pulled his eyes from the ocean and noticed that everyone on the ship was on deck, standing at the port rail looking silently south at a cloudy sky. Standing among the crew was a tall, beautiful woman, her left hand on a little girl's shoulder and her right on the shoulder of a little gray Fang. Beside them stood Poto, shirtless and strong with what looked like a club in one hand. Come on, lad, Oscar said, and Nia, Leeli, Kalmar, and Poto turned to greet him. Seeing them together gave Janner strength. He pulled away from Oscar and limped into his mother's arms. His legs, neck, and back stung, but he didn't care anymore. He had seen each member of his family over the weeks of his recovery, but never all at once. He felt Poto's hand on his head, Leely's cheek against his shoulder, his mother's arms enfolding him without jarring his wounds, and Kalmar's hand on his forearm. Then he felt Kalmar's claws, and though he didn't want to, he cringed. Only a little, but enough to break the happy spell of his family's welcome. Good morning, son, Nia said, taking his face in her hands. She smiled at him, but there was grief in her eyes. Janner could see she'd shed tears recently. Leeli didn't say a word, but held Janner's hand and looked out at the gray horizon. Mama, what is it? Janner asked. Why won't anyone tell me what's happening? Nia helped Janner to the railing and pointed at the horizon. Look. But Janner didn't see anything unusual. The waters were eerily calm, as if the dark sea were holding its breath. It felt like their ship was trespassing. But that wasn't anything to look at, was it? Everyone on the ship was staring at something, but Janner only saw clouds. Then he remembered the smell of smoke, and he knew. Those aren't clouds, are they? Poto shifted on his wooden leg and shook his head. No, laddie, they aren't. It's smoke, Janner said. All the maps Janner had ever studied sped through his mind.